You know Florida. Sun, year-round mosquito conventions, retired people who golf like it's an Olympic sport, and at least one alligator that'll photobomb your vacation selfie. But here's the plot twist. While Miami and Palm Beach are busy auditioning to be the next Bond villain lair, there are whole towns in Florida where you can buy a house for less than a used pickup and still get the sunshine. The state median home value is in the low to mid $300,000 to $400,000 range, but that's the headline. The subheadline is where the bargains live. So pour yourself something tropical, and let's tour 25 Florida towns where the market makes you suspicious, in a good way. I'll give you the town, the price vibe, and one honest truth or dumb joke, because if the price looks like a scam, the jokes should at least be responsible for your entertainment. 25. Palm Coast. Median home value, approximately $343,000. Palm Coast is like Florida's best-kept not-so-secret, a coastal city where the prices haven't quite caught up to the "I live on the beach, darling" crowd. The median home price sits just above $340,000, which, for coastal Florida, is practically thrift store shopping. To put that in perspective, the median Florida home is in the mid-$400,000 statewide. For about $100,000 lower, Palm Coast gives you such a huge bargain. Plus, you're actually near the Atlantic. That's like paying regular Chipotle prices, but getting free guac on top. The vibe here is suburban meets retirement community, with plenty of golf courses, gated neighborhoods, and more palm trees than Starbucks locations. But don't think it's only for retirees. Families are catching on too. The schools are decent, crime is low compared to other Florida towns, and the city is one of the fastest growing in the state. Translation? Buy now before everyone else reads the same Zillow listing you just did. The trade-off? Palm Coast doesn't have Miami's nightlife, unless your idea of nightlife is the HOA meeting arguing about mailbox paint colors. But the beaches are pristine, the cost of living is manageable, and you're close enough to Daytona or Orlando to get your adrenaline fix. Think of Palm Coast as the Costco version of coastal living. You get the beach experience in bulk, minus the designer price tag. 24. Port Orange. Median home value, approximately $335,000. Next up, Port Orange, Daytona Beach's calmer, more sensible cousin. If Daytona is the guy revving his motorcycle at midnight, Port Orange is the neighbor politely asking him to keep it down because his kids have school tomorrow. Median home values here hover in the low to mid $330,000, making it a bargain compared to most beach-adjacent towns in the US. What do you get for that price? Suburban streets with actual yards, good public schools, and a family-friendly vibe. It's one of those towns where Little League is basically a religion, and every other person has a boat they swear they use all the time. Spoiler, they don't. Port Orange also wins points for location. You're minutes from Daytona Beach without paying Daytona's rowdy tourist tax. Plus, Orlando is only about an hour away if you ever get the urge to fight a family of 4 over the last Mickey pretzel. On the downside, Port Orange can feel a little sleepy. If you want bars and clubs, drive north. If you want a quiet life with affordable housing and a Publix on every corner, congratulations, you're home. 23 Palm Bay. Median home value, approximately $330,000. Palm Bay is what happens when you mix Space Coast geekery with affordable suburban housing. With a median price of around $330,000, it's a place where you can buy a solid single-family home without auctioning off your internal organs. Why Palm Bay? For starters, NASA launches are basically your fireworks. Imagine sipping a cheap beer in your backyard while a rocket takes off, and you didn't even have to fight traffic to watch it. That's Palm Bay in a nutshell. It's nerd heaven on a budget. The area is growing too. Tech companies, defense contractors, and space-related industries feed the job market. So you're not just buying a house, You're buying into Florida's version of Silicon Valley, minus the avocado toast cult. That growth means values are likely to climb, so today's cheap could be tomorrow's why didn't I buy two? Of course, Palm Bay has its quirks. Infrastructure hasn't always kept up with the growth, so some neighborhoods feel like they're waiting for the 21st century to arrive. But if you're looking for affordable property in a market with real job growth, Palm Bay is a strong contender. Bonus? You can brag to your friends that you live near space, without clarifying it's the one with mosquitoes the size of drones. 22 Lehigh Acres. Median home value, approximately $324,000. Welcome to Lehigh Acres, the town that looks like a SimCity map someone abandoned halfway through. With a median home price of about $324,000, it's an affordable pocket of Southwest Florida where you can still snag a house without selling your firstborn to the mortgage gods. Lehigh Acres has exploded in population over the last 2 decades, which means you'll see a ton of new construction. Subdivisions as far as the eye can see. For investors, that's great news. New builds, expanding infrastructure, and steady demand. For residents, it means your neighbor might be drywall dust for the next year. Here's the real kicker. Lehigh Acres is just outside Fort Myers, so you get proximity to beaches without Fort Myers' sticker shock. Imagine living near some of Florida's most beautiful Gulf Coast beaches, but at a price that still leaves you enough to buy sunscreen in bulk. The trade-off? It's a commuter town, so expect traffic if you're heading into Fort Myers for work. Also, hurricanes. But if you're looking for affordable housing near the coast with real upside potential, Lehigh Acres is like finding a $20 bill in your old jeans pocket. Not glamorous, but extremely satisfying. 21. Kissimmee. Median home value, approximately $324,000. Kissimmee is basically Disneyland's little brother that rents out his room to tourists. With a median home price of around $324,000, it's one of the most affordable ways to live near Orlando's theme park mecca. What makes Kissimmee special is its short-term rental market. Many homeowners here make their mortgage by renting to families who came to see a guy in mouse ears charge $12 for a churro. That makes it a goldmine for investors. Steady tourism demand, close proximity to Disney, and affordable entry prices compared to Orlando proper. But don't write it off as just a tourist trap. Kissimmee has real neighborhoods, schools, and a growing community of full-time residents who love the convenience of being near Orlando without living in the chaos. The downtown area has also been revitalized, with restaurants, breweries, and parks giving locals something to brag about. Still, Kissimmee isn't perfect. Expect heavy traffic, lots of out-of-state license plates, and the occasional kid dressed like Elsa screaming in a Target aisle. But if you can handle the tourist chaos, Kissimmee offers affordable housing with built-in rental potential, which is about as close to a real estate cheat code as you can get in Florida. 20. Daytona Beach. Median home value, approximately $322,000. Daytona Beach, where you can buy a house, a Harley, and a sunburn, all in the same weekend. With a median home price hovering around $322,000, Daytona is shockingly affordable for a city that's literally beachfront. Try finding that in California. You'll be laughed out of the realtor's office faster than you can say Pacific Ocean. Daytona is famous for NASCAR, spring break, and being one of the few places in America where it's socially acceptable to drive your car on the beach. And yes, people actually do it. Imagine explaining that to someone from Europe. Oh, this is where we park the Honda Civic next to the ocean. The real estate market here is a mixed bag. You'll find affordable condos, modest bungalows, and fixer-uppers that could either be your dream beach house or the next season of a DIY disaster show. Investors love Daytona for vacation rentals, since the steady stream of tourists guarantees a market for short-term stays. Families, meanwhile, enjoy the affordable housing and beach lifestyle, provided they can live with the occasional college kid screaming karaoke at 3 a.m. The downsides? Hurricanes, of course, plus the traffic spikes every time there's a race or bike rally. But overall, Daytona is proof you can live the beach life without a billionaire's wallet. And really, who wouldn't want to buy groceries and flip-flops year-round? 19. Melbourne. Median home value, approximately $318,000. Melbourne is like Palm Bay's cool older cousin who already has a decent job and doesn't need to borrow money. Median home prices sit around $318,000, making it one of the better value coastal towns in Florida. It's on the Space Coast, so you're close enough to see rockets launch from your backyard while you wonder if you paid your internet bill on time. Melbourne has a little bit of everything. Decent schools, a growing job market, especially in aerospace and defense, and a surprisingly charming downtown area with restaurants and bars. It's a place where you can work for Lockheed Martin by day and grab tacos by the beach at night. Try doing that in Silicon Valley without selling your kidney. The real estate market here is attractive for both families and investors. Families love the relatively affordable single-family homes with backyards. Investors like the steady job base and proximity to the coast, which means rentals hold value. Plus, you're only about an hour from Orlando, close enough for a weekend Disney trip, but far enough to avoid the traffic apocalypse. On the flip side, Melbourne isn't exactly a nightlife hotspot. Think more craft breweries and art walks, less all-night raves. But that's part of the charm. Affordable, livable, and just interesting enough to keep you entertained without draining your bank account. 18 Spring Hill. Median home value, approximately $315,000. Spring Hill is basically Florida suburbia wrapped in a golf shirt. With median home prices around $315,000, it's a classic get more house for less money kind of place. Families love it, retirees love it, and your wallet will definitely love it. Located about an hour north of Tampa, Spring Hill offers a suburban lifestyle without Tampa's rising prices. You get affordable single-family homes, quiet neighborhoods, and access to the Gulf Coast. Plus, you're close enough to Tampa if you ever need to pretend you're hip and go to a concert. One big perk? The Weeki Wachee Springs Mermaids. Yes, you read that right! Spring Hill is home to a state park where actual people dress as mermaids and perform underwater shows. Where else in America can you buy a $300,000 home and still have a neighbor with gills? The downsides are what you'd expect. Suburban sprawl, limited job opportunities in town, and the occasional Florida wildlife surprise. Gators love golf course ponds. And Spring Hill has plenty of golf courses. But overall, Spring Hill gives you solid affordability and the kind of suburban stability that's hard to beat. It's like Florida's version of comfort food. Not flashy, but it fills you up. 17. Poinciana. Median home value, approximately $308,000. Poinciana is one of Florida's largest master-planned communities, and honestly, it kind of feels like it was designed by someone who couldn't stop buying Lego sets as a kid. With a median price just over $300,000, it's a surprisingly affordable option for people who want the Orlando area lifestyle without paying Orlando area premiums. The community sprawls across 2 counties and has everything from schools and parks to shopping centers and endless HOA meetings. If you like neatly organized subdivisions and community pools, you'll fit right in. If you hate HOAs, well, maybe keep looking. One of Poinciana's strengths is its diversity. You'll find families, retirees, and young professionals, many drawn here by affordable prices and relative proximity to Orlando. Commutes can be rough, but for many, the trade-off is worth it. The homes are modern, The neighborhoods are family-friendly, and you get a sense of community that's rare in larger cities. The biggest knock? Infrastructure has struggled to keep up with growth. Traffic can be a headache, and some parts of Poinciana feel like they were built before anyone thought about adding enough grocery stores. Still, at this price point, it's an attractive choice, especially for first-time buyers. Think of it as Orlando Light. All the sunshine, none of the mouse ears. 16 Deltona. Median home value, approximately $300,000. Deltona is the middle child of Central Florida real estate. Not too expensive, not too flashy, but reliable and affordable. With median home prices right at $300,000, it's one of the best value plays in the Orlando metro area. What makes Deltona appealing is its location. You're about halfway between Orlando and Daytona Beach, which means you can do Disney on Saturday and surf on Sunday without burning a tank of gas. That's lifestyle efficiency at its finest. The housing stock is mostly modest single-family homes built in the 1970s and 80s, so don't expect luxury condos with rooftop pools. But what you will get is space. Backyards, driveways, and houses that don't look like shoeboxes stacked on top of each other. Families love it here. Retirees like the quiet, and commuters like that they can afford a house without being 2 hours from civilization. The downside? Deltona is a classic commuter suburb, which means not much happens in town itself. Entertainment options are limited, and if you want anything beyond chain restaurants, you'll need to drive. But if you're after affordable housing in a central location, Deltona is a solid bet. It's the dad sneakers of Florida real estate. Practical, comfortable, and not nearly as lame as people say. 15. Port Charlotte. Median home value, approximately $285,000. Port Charlotte is what happens when Florida decides to offer you coastal living, but leaves out the coastal price tag. With a median home value under $300,000, it's basically the Groupon version of Sarasota. You still get waterfront views, but your mortgage doesn't look like a ransom note. What makes Port Charlotte shine is access to the water. Canals snake through the neighborhoods, meaning you can literally have a house with a boat dock for a fraction of what it would cost 2 counties over. Want to kayak to dinner? Totally possible. Want to fish off your back porch? Go for it. The waterfront lifestyle is the town's secret sauce. Retirees have long loved Port Charlotte, but families are catching on. Schools are decent, crime is manageable, and you're close to bigger cities like Fort Myers or Sarasota when you need more action. For investors, Port Charlotte is interesting because it straddles that sweet spot between affordability and desirability. It's cheap enough to buy in, but nice enough to rent out to snowbirds who think Florida is paradise on earth. The downside? Hurricanes don't skip Port Charlotte, and neither does the occasional Florida wildlife surprise. Yes, gators occasionally wander into backyards. But all things considered, this is one of the most affordable waterfront-adjacent towns in the state. Think of it as coastal living on a Costco budget. 14. Lakeland. Median home value, approximately $280,000. Lakeland is exactly what it sounds like. Lakes, lakes, and more lakes. If you've ever dreamed of owning a kayak but didn't want to live on the coast, this is your town. Median home prices hover around $280,000, making it one of the cheapest mid-sized cities in Florida. Located between Tampa and Orlando, Lakeland is perfect for commuters who can't decide between overpriced Disney lattes or overpriced Tampa cocktails. The city itself has a charming downtown, a strong sense of community, and, fun fact, it's home to the largest collection of Frank Lloyd Wright architecture in the world. That's right, Lakeland is sneaky cultured. Families like Lakeland for its schools and suburban stability. Retirees like the golf courses and small-town feel. Investors like the fact that Lakeland has been quietly growing while still flying under the radar. You won't find crazy Miami-style bidding wars here, which means you can actually breathe while house shopping. The only downside? The commute. If you work in Tampa or Orlando, be ready to spend a lot of time in your car. But for the price, Lakeland is a solid choice. It's like Florida's middle child city. Not flashy, not forgotten, just quietly affordable and surprisingly livable.
13. Gainesville.
Median home value, approximately $275,000. Welcome to Gainesville, also known as the Swamp. Not because it's an actual swamp. Well, okay, parts of it are. But because it's home to the University of Florida Gators. With a median home value around $275,000, Gainesville is a rare combination of affordability, culture, and youthful energy. This is a true college town, which means the population skews young. There's always something happening, and you'll never run out of pizza places. For homeowners, that means one thing: rental demand. Students need places to live. Alumni like to buy retirement homes here, and the university keeps the local economy stable. For investors, it's practically foolproof. Families also find Gainesville appealing because it has good schools, plenty of parks, and a decent healthcare system, thanks to UF's massive hospital network. The city also has a growing arts and music scene, so it's not just football and frat parties, though there's plenty of that too. The trade-off? Summers are brutally hot, traffic around campus is a nightmare, and yes, game days mean your quiet Saturday is overrun with face paint and tailgate smoke. But for affordability, livability, and long-term potential, Gainesville punches way above its weight. Think of it as Florida's budget-friendly Austin. Weird, youthful, and affordable.
12. Pine Hills, Orlando Metro.
Median home value, approximately $256,000. Thoughtful. Now let's talk about Pine Hills, a neighborhood on Orlando's west side that locals love to debate. Some call it affordable Orlando, others call it rough around the edges. But at a median price of about $256,000, it's undeniably one of the cheapest ways to live in Central Florida. The pros: you're right in Orlando's backyard, close to jobs, entertainment, and of course, theme parks. For first-time buyers or investors, the low entry price is a huge draw. Rental demand here is solid, thanks to the city's growing population and tourism industry. The cons. Pine Hills has struggled with crime and infrastructure issues. Some parts of the neighborhood feel overlooked compared to glitzier Orlando suburbs. But here's the thing. Neighborhoods like this often see the biggest gains when redevelopment eventually kicks in. Already you're seeing signs of revitalization, community programs, investment in schools, and new businesses moving in. So, Pine Hills is a bit of a gamble. It's not the postcard-perfect Florida suburb, but it's affordable, central, and full of potential. Think of it as the fixer-upper of Orlando real estate. Maybe not glamorous now, but with some polish, it could shine.
11. Inverness.
Median home value, approximately $233,000. Inverness is one of those towns that feels like you accidentally drove into a Hallmark movie set. Located in Citrus County, it's known for lakes, parks, and a historic downtown that looks like it hasn't aged a day since 1950. With a median home price around $233,000, it's also one of the cheapest places in Florida to buy a house. The lifestyle here is slower paced. Think fishing trips, weekend festivals, and neighbors who actually wave when you drive by. Retirees love Inverness because it's affordable, safe, and close to healthcare. Families like the small-town schools and outdoor activities. And investors? Well, they've started to notice that cheap housing plus a desirable small-town feel makes for strong rental potential. The trade-off is that Inverness is well, quiet. If you're looking for nightlife, you'll be disappointed. The local version of wild is karaoke night at the VFW. But if you want peace, affordability, and a genuine sense of community, Inverness delivers. It's the kind of place where $230,000 buys you an actual house with a yard, not just a condo the size of a walk-in closet. And in Florida, that's a deal worth celebrating.
10. Quincy.
Median home value approximately $220,000. Quincy sits just outside Tallahassee, which means you can enjoy Florida's capital perks without paying capital city prices. At a median home value of around $220,000, Quincy is basically Tallahassee's affordable cousin who still shows up to the family reunion in flip-flops. The town itself is steeped in history. Once upon a time, it was known as the Coca-Cola Millionaires Town because a bunch of locals invested early in Coke stock and got filthy rich. Nowadays, Quincy is less about soda fortunes and more about cheap real estate with plenty of southern charm. You'll find antebellum homes, tree-lined streets, and a laid-back lifestyle that feels worlds away from the hustle of Miami. For families, Quincy is attractive because of its affordability and proximity to jobs in Tallahassee. For investors, student renters from nearby Florida State spill over, meaning steady rental demand. The trade-off? Quincy's pace of life is slow. Like, the traffic jam is 2 tractors deep slow. And while the housing is affordable, some areas still struggle with underinvestment. But if you're looking for character, history, and prices that won't send you into cardiac arrest, Quincy delivers.
9.
Ocala. Median home value approximately $215,000. Known as the horse capital of the world, Ocala is where mansions and stables meet shockingly cheap median housing, about $215,000. Seriously, it's the only place where you can live in a regular ranch house and still tell people you live in horse country. Ocala has more than just horses, though. The city is surrounded by natural springs, national forests, and trails that draw outdoor enthusiasts from all over. It's also been growing steadily, thanks to new jobs and retirees who want affordability without sacrificing amenities. The city's downtown is charming, with historic buildings, breweries, and a budding art scene. And thanks to its central location, you're within striking distance of both coasts without paying beachfront premiums. For investors, Ocala has a steady rental market, thanks to retirees, young families, and seasonal visitors. The downside? Summers are hotter than a jalapeno sauna, and horse jokes get old fast. But all in all, Ocala is one of those best of both worlds towns. Affordable, scenic, and surprisingly modern.
8. Live Oak.
Median home value, approximately $210,000. Live Oak feels like old Florida. Not the Miami skyline, not the Disney Empire, but the Florida of front porches, mossy oaks, and neighbors who know your name. At about $210,000 median home value, it's one of the cheapest places in the state to plant roots. The name isn't false advertising. The town is full of gorgeous oak trees that give it a postcard look. It's small, quiet, and surrounded by springs and rivers that outdoor lovers can't get enough of. Think tubing, kayaking, fishing, and camping. Basically every Visit Florida brochure activity, but at a price that won't break you. For buyers, Live Oak means space. You can actually buy a house with land here, something that's a fantasy in places like Miami. For investors, the rental market isn't massive, but with remote work on the rise, places like this are seeing new life as affordable escapes. The catch? Don't expect big city amenities. Grocery shopping is an event, and nightlife is that one bar downtown. But if you want peace, quiet, and homes that are somehow cheaper than a new Tesla, Live Oak is calling.
7. Palatka.
Median home value, approximately $200,000. Palatka has a reputation. Some good, some not so good. It's been called affordable, up and coming, and yes, sometimes even rough. But with homes around $200,000, it's one of Florida's cheapest cities, and you can't argue with that. The town sits along the St. Johns River, which gives it scenic views and a surprisingly rich history as a former hub of river commerce. Nowadays, it's known for its annual Azalea Festival, a growing arts scene, and being the kind of place where you can buy a house without needing 3 side hustles. Palatka is a classic high-risk, high-reward town. Some neighborhoods are genuinely charming, with historic homes and walkable streets. Others need some TLC. But that's exactly why investors have their eyes on it. If redevelopment keeps moving in, those $200,000 homes could look like steals in a few years. The flip side? Palatka doesn't have the polish of more popular Florida towns. Crime and poverty rates are higher than average. But if you're willing to bet on potential and want a house that costs less than most Disney annual passes, Palatka is worth a serious look.
6. Lake City. Median home value, approximately $195,000.
Lake City is exactly what it sounds like, a city surrounded by lakes, and at a median home value under $200,000, it's one of Florida's most affordable hidden gems. This is a small but growing town that sits at the crossroads of I-75 and I-10, making it a surprisingly strategic spot for commuters and businesses. It's also home to natural springs, rivers, and forests, making it a paradise for outdoor lovers. If you like hiking, swimming, or just chilling by the water, Lake City delivers. For buyers, it's the price tag that makes it irresistible. Under $200,000 gets you an actual house, often with a yard, and maybe even some land. For investors, Lake City's location and affordability make it a sleeper pick. It's not flashy, but the demand is steady. The cons? It's small. Like, everybody knows your business small. And job opportunities can be limited if you're not in healthcare, education, or logistics. But the affordability makes up for it. In a world where $200,000 barely buys you a closet in Miami, Lake City feels like a real-life cheat code.
5. Sebring. Median home value, approximately $190,000.
Sebring is famous for 2 things: race cars and retirees. Known as the City on the Circle because of its unique round downtown, it's also home to the Sebring International Raceway, where cars scream around the track while locals sip iced tea on porches that cost less than a Tesla. At a median home value of around $190,000, Sebring offers a mix of small-town Florida charm and natural beauty. It sits in the middle of the state, surrounded by lakes, orange groves, and state parks. Basically, it's postcard Florida, minus the sky-high prices. Retirees love Sebring because it's quiet, affordable, and packed with golf courses. Families like it because it's safe, has good schools, and offers an actual community feel. For investors, the steady stream of retirees ensures strong rental demand, especially for seasonal snowbird rentals. Of course, the trade-off is that Sebring is quiet. Like, your wild Friday night is the neighbor's fish fry quiet. And being inland means you're a couple hours from beaches. But if affordability is king, Sebring delivers. It's proof that you can still find homes in Florida for under $200,000. And no, you don't have to live in a swamp to get them.
4. Clewiston.
Median home value, approximately $180,000. Welcome to Clewiston, aka the sweetest town in America. Why? Because it's built on sugar. Literally. The town sits right next to Lake Okeechobee and is surrounded by sugarcane fields. So if you like your sweet tea with an extra kick, this is your paradise. At $180,000 median home price, Clewiston is one of Florida's cheapest towns. The city's charm lies in its small-town atmosphere mixed with outdoor opportunities. Fishing, boating, and hunting are all popular here. For buyers, it's the affordability that shines. You can buy a single-family home for less than a condo in Miami Beach. But let's be real, Clewiston isn't glamorous. Jobs are limited, nightlife is basically non-existent, and the summer mosquitoes are practically large enough to demand rent. Still, for affordability and a slower lifestyle, it's hard to beat. Investors also keep an eye here, because proximity to Lake Okeechobee means there's always some demand for vacation rentals.
3. Palatka, East Side.
Median home value, approximately $175,000. Okay, we already mentioned Palatka back at number 7, but the east side of town deserves its own spot because prices here dip even lower, averaging around $175,000. It's one of those Florida quirks where one part of town is cheap and another part is dirt cheap. The east side is older, more industrial, and hasn't yet seen the redevelopment happening downtown. That means you can score a house for what feels like monopoly money. For first-time buyers, this is golden. You can actually own property without selling plasma on the weekends. For investors, it's a play on potential. If redevelopment spreads, these homes could double in value. The downside is that East Palatka still struggles with underinvestment, so you'll need patience and maybe a little vision. But for affordability, it's unbeatable. This is Florida real estate at yard sale prices.
2. Marianna.
Median home value, approximately $148,000. Marianna is the kind of town where you can still buy a house for less than the price of a year at some private preschools. At a median of about $148,000, Marianna is dirt cheap by Florida standards, especially when you realize this is a place with actual history, charm, and enough amenities to make life comfortable. Known as the City of Southern Charm, Marianna has oak-lined streets, a proper little downtown, and even caves. Yes, the Florida Caverns State Park is right here. So while people in Miami are paying $800,000 for a condo with a view of someone else's balcony, you could be spelunking in your backyard. Families like Marianna because it's quiet, safe, and affordable. Retirees like it because you can stretch a fixed income further than anywhere else in the state. Investors like it because the entry point is so low that even modest appreciation or rental demand looks great on paper. A $148,000 house in Florida is practically an endangered species, and Marianna is its wildlife refuge. The trade-offs? This is not a booming metropolis. Jobs are limited, and nightlife is more bonfire and beer than clubs and cocktails. Also, if you need major healthcare or airport access, you'll be driving. But for people looking for the cheapest end of Florida home ownership, Marianna is basically a cheat code.
1. Gretna.
Median home value, approximately $85,000 to $89,000. And now, the crown jewel of Florida bargains, Gretna. With median home values hovering just under $90,000, this tiny panhandle town isn't just cheap, it's, are we sure this isn't a typo? Cheap. Seriously, in a state where starter homes often flirt with $500,000, Gretna feels like the housing market forgot to update the prices after 1995. Gretna is small. We're talking population in the hundreds, not thousands. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in pure affordability. You can actually buy a full single-family home here for less than the down payment on a townhouse in Tampa. For budget-conscious buyers, it's basically Florida's last stop before free. Why so cheap? Simple. Limited job market, limited amenities, and not a lot of outside demand. Gretna isn't a vacation hub. It isn't on the coast, and it doesn't have a racetrack or fancy festival to put it on the map. But for someone who wants peace, space, and a home price that sounds like it belongs in the Midwest, Gretna is perfect. The trade-offs are obvious. You'll be driving to nearby towns for shopping, dining, and most forms of entertainment. But with prices this low, you'll have gas money to spare. And if you're an investor, the ultra-low entry cost makes Gretna a great why not play. Rent it out, hold it, or just enjoy the fact that you own Florida dirt for under 6 figures.
So what's the takeaway?
Florida is not just Miami and mega mansions. It's also small towns where a modest paycheck still buys a real house, not just a cozy starter condo with emotional equity. Many of these towns sit far from the glitz. They offer lower property costs, slower pace, and the uncanny ability to make you feel like you pulled off a heist while following the law. But the fine print. Some cheap towns come with trade-offs. Smaller job markets, longer drives to big hospitals, and yes, parts of the state are more hurricane-prone or have higher insurance costs. Do your homework. Check flood maps, scour local crime stats, and call a real estate agent who actually knows the neighborhood, not just a guy who learned the word closing from a podcast. If you're buying to live, prioritize commute, healthcare access, and internet speed. Seriously. If you're buying to invest, look for towns with job growth, rising inventory turnover, and a track record of steady demand. And if you're buying because you just want a cheap, beach-adjacent house to escape to, well, congrats. You've just discovered Florida's secret clearance rack. If one thing's certain, at these prices, Florida's too-good-to-be-true markets are real. They're not scams, they're opportunities. And if you still think an $80,000 house sounds like a prank call, remember, real estate is weird, and Florida is weirder, but in the best, most affordable way. If you want a follow-up, I'll make a deep dive video on the 5 cheapest towns from this list: homes under $120,000, where to find fixer-uppers, how to vet flood risk. Drop a comment with which town you want me to investigate first. And please like and subscribe if you want more cheap houses that feel like scams content. Hit the bell so you don't miss the part where I test whether a palm tree counts as a home upgrade. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.